do there. Turn this off for a second. See who ends up popping on first. Bring this down just a little bit. What's up, Duck? Trying to clean this up just a hair. We're gonna be rocking out some 15 and 20 on this one. I guess it's technically that way. What's up, Craig? So we're gonna be rocking out some 15 and 20 on this particular guy. So I am going to be forging a blacksmith knife on this one, but instead of like the other one where I just kind of winged the whole entire thing and just kind of had an idea of what I wanted to do, this time I've been wanting to make a knife to fit this sheath right here. I got this sheath from the Bavarian Experience up in Frankenmuth, Washington. It's cool. Got really cool dies on it and everything. And I'm going to make a knife to fit the sheath. So what I did was I drew the profile of the sheath roughly on the Vevor anvil over here. So I drew it on the top of it. That way I know roughly how big I need to make this. But we don't have a whole bunch of material. We're going to use this to go ahead and make a blacksmith knife. I am going to have to do this as close to forge finish as possible so we can maximize the steel. What's up, Keith? What's up, Crab? What's up, Jeffrey? What's up, Nicholas? What's up, Shrey? So we're going to go ahead. We're going to forge out a blacksmith knife out of a little piece of bar stock. So y'all don't see me forge a whole lot of things like just pieces of bar stock, but I wanted to do 15 and 20 for this and see how it goes. We're going to go ahead and again, let's do this. We're going to draw the size of it. That way we can see a before and after. So let's do this. Let's go ahead and take that way we can have an idea of how much forging we actually got out of it. So, drew the little profile of the rectangle right now. I'm super excited about next weekend. I'll be coming in on Thursday. I'll be there Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and probably head back on Sunday. We're going to go ahead and get this in the forge. This piece of steel is a 3/16 inch thick right now. So 3/16 of an inch thick, which is plenty of beefiness for a blacksmith knife. We don't need anything super crazy. But what we're going to go ahead and do on this is I'm going to do the tip. So we're going to go ahead and forge in the tip. And then we're going to forge in the step down. And to give you an idea, we're not making one this big, but of course, this is one of the blacksmith knives that I did on one of the live streams. We are going to be doing a twist on the handle like this, but a lot more of it. So we are going to do a full twist like this, but we're going to pretty much twist the entire tang all the way around. So we're going to do that. The blade's going to be a little bit smaller than this one, but we're going to be doing everything. On this particular project, we need to forge in that tip, and we need to forge in the step down that's going to be this little piece right here, and then we need to forge another step down to be that piece. This shouldn't take long to heat up, so we'll be able to be forging here pretty quick. Yeah, I'll be there, so hopefully, you know, if y'all are out and about or hanging out, y'all can come and see me. I'll be around Dennis Tyrell's table. I'll be around Jason Fry's table. I'll be around a few different people's tables during the actual show, so it'll be pretty cool. And I'll be posting, letting y'all know where I'm going to be and things like that, so y'all can come and say hi. Plus, I'll be walking around, and I look like me, so if you had any questions to what I look like, I look like this. And don't be afraid to come up and just say what's up. I could be in the middle of a conversation with somebody. Just come up and be like, yo, Eric, what's up? And we'll stop and talk to you. Don't worry about it. This is the first thing that I have forged since the last live stream. So we're going to see how this goes. I don't think I'm going to be rusty with it, but with the new job, it's been hectic getting used to the new hours because I go in at 5 a.m. Okay, so I can be up by 4 a.m. Go in and I work until I'm done working. Okay, so we're already hot enough. The hammers that we're going to use for this, we're going to use the dog head from Two Bastards. We're going to use, most likely, straight peen, cross peen from Two Bastards. And that's about it. We're going to use pretty much these two hammers right here. So, straight peen, cross peen from Two Bastards, of course, channel sponsor. I'll talk more about them in a little bit. And that beautiful dog head. Starting off with the dog head. So for this part, we're going to come in, we're going to hammer in these shoulders by hanging the steel off the anvil a little bit. Show y'all something. You see how we have a slight, what we would call fish lip thing happening? That's going to completely go away as we start doing this. One of the easiest ways to be able to have that not happen is if you take on your 2x72 or your 1x30 and you just round the shoulders just a little bit. So where they're super square like this, just take and put a little radius like that on them. You won't get those fish lips near as easy. Make sure this fan isn't blowing directly on my anvil, pulling the steel down too fast. Here's the deal. If you do end up getting a little bit of fish lips, just forge them out. I'll show you that, so don't worry about it. You'll get what I mean. See what y'all are saying here. Looking forward to live stream. Heck yeah. Speaking of which, y'all should join the Discord. I should have Dennis and his fancy Damascus challenge builds. We're doing a blacksmith knife. I've never been to Blaze Show. Looking forward. You're gonna love it. What blade should be making? I'm doing a blacksmith knife, which is going to fit this sheath right here is the end goal. So typically you don't make the sheath before you make the knife. I got the sheath before I end up making this knife. See how gnarly our tip is right there? Come in from the corner, hammer it in a little bit. Or slowly gonna work that tip in. What I'll probably do is I'll probably forge down to a thin piece and then just knock the tip off of it. And we're going to switch anvils for that. So this anvil doesn't have a ton of really sharp edges, but the V-bore does. So y'all don't see me forge on this very often, but I always have it next to me whenever I'm forging. We have a tip there, but I'm going to go ahead and clip off the end of this just to make sure we don't have any D-lams or cold shuts or anything like that. More cold shuts than D-lams because we're not worried about D-lams, it's monosteel. Thought all knives are blacksmith knives. Kind of, yes. The only difference is with a lot of standard knives, we do a lot of, grinder work and all of that. Whenever we're making this knife, because it's not going to have a set of handle scales on it, we have to forge the tang. So, where the heck I put that friggin' knife? Y'all hiding the knife from me? There it is. Because it doesn't have handle scales, the whole entire handle is forged. You get a lot of blacksmith techniques in there to create your handle. And it's the reason why a lot of people call them blacksmith knives. Take this tip off right here. Got that tip forged off. I use the 2x7 groove. All I have on there is a Scotch-Brite belt. Yeah, that's really all you have to do. You don't got to get too crazy with the trying to fix like 50 different things. All I did was I took that piece of steel, grab one for y'all. All I did was I took the piece of steel, hung it off the edge here, and I just smashed in this section here. So hung the edge off the tip of the anvil hammered behind this 90-degree angle and pinched it down and then took the tip off of it. And by default, that gives you a point. Let's go ahead and swap anvils again. Primarily because I don't like using this anvil for a bunch of hard forging, even though it can handle it. I like having that real clean face on that for whenever I'm doing planishing, like swords, or if I'm going through and I'm using the straightening hammer, the little carbide ball peen hammer. I like using it to be able to flatten blades. By default now, we have a tip, we've got it knocked over. This of course is going to be the spine. What we need to do now is figure out how long we want the blade and how much material we need to be able to forge out the rat tail to be the, what size hardy hole do you have? The hardy hole in that friggin' bevel anvil is massive, and I say massive, it's about 1.25 inches. This one right here is about 1 inch. I thought you were talking about the Pritchard hole. The Pritchard hole on the bevel is ridiculous. But the hardy hole's a little bit oversized. And yes, like a bent over rat tail. But you'll see me forging this. What I want to do is get an idea of how long I want the blade. So I know where to actually start this tail. About right there. So all I did was put a little notch in it. That is going to be our tail, which means from here to there is going to be our blade. So from here to there. And of course, as we forge everything in, all this stuff is going to grow in size. We're going to be forging in bevels, we're going to be forging in the tang, we're going to be forging in everything. Is it going to be a massive knife? No. But it'll be a good size EDC. Let's see here. Yeah, the dog head, that right there, is Frank Two Bastards Forge. Well, technically it's Two Bastards Texie Smithy and Supplies. That is the actual sponsor of the live streams, which is pretty cool. Frank and Nita, two awesome people. They're the Two Bastards. It's a husband and wife. They've been doing this for 6 years. They don't just make hammers. They have, you know, awesome like swage blocks. They do restorations for hammers. You can get so many things from them. But the cool thing about them is whenever you get in contact with them, you actually talk to them and let them actually help figure out what type of hammer you need, which is really cool. And again, I'll talk more here in just a little bit. So you want the tail 2.5 as long as the, yep. So yes, in a way. So with this right here, so doing this one, I knew that I needed the tail to be over 9.5 inches long. So I needed 9.5 inches long minimum to be able to make sure that I can fold it back in on itself. We don't need it to be that long on this one because it's not going to be a very big knife. But we want to make sure that we have enough to be able to do the job, to make sure that we have a full-size handle. Again, this isn't going to be a very big knife, so we don't have to get too crazy, but it's not just thinking about you need the tail to be that much longer than what you need it to be. Things that go into play here are how tall the material is when you started with, how square you want that rat tail. So if you have a 3/16 of an inch thick spine, a lot of the times the rat tail is going to be 3/16 of an inch by 3/16 of an inch square. So if your steel is an inch tall, think about how many 3/16 of an inch you can get as you're going up there. So you got to think about how much you're going to forge it down and how much that material can get moved into the tail. Me, I have an idea of what we're going to be able to do here, so you can do all kinds of different crafty stuff with it. What's up, Steve? What's up, Frank? So again, that right there, Frank Machado, that is the actual, that's one of the two bastards. Like I said, amazing hammers. I'm going to talk more about them as we get into this. Of course, during the live streams, I primarily use their hammers. I've got a few awesome hammers that they're making right now, or getting ready to make. Do, we're going to start taking this piece right here and we're just going to thin it out. So as we're going this way, we're going to get length into it as well. Let's go ahead and there we go. Now notifications are off on my phone. So we're going to pinch this down and stretch it out. Because it's 3/16 of an inch, the tail is going to primarily be 3/16 of an inch by 3/16 of an inch. We're going to make it nice and square. And then we have our cutting edge started right here. This is going to be the heel of the blade. So all we're going to do is we're going to stretch this out a little bit and get a lot of the movement going in the right direction. And then we're going to start working on our blade a little bit. My kind of thought process on when I'm forging is I want to get the material moving in the right direction during the actual processes that we're working on. So if we are forging a lot on the blade, it's going to do a lot of crazy stuff to the tang area. If we're forging a lot on the tang area, it's going to do a lot of crazy stuff to the blade section. So what I like to do is I like to work to certain percentages. I like to go up to about 70% on the blade, 70% on the tang, 70% on the blade, you know, working my way up to finally get to a point to where we're comfortable with the profile. If you forge 95% on the blade, and then I'm talking about getting bevels done, all of that, and then get into the actual tang section, when you start forging that tang, you're going to screw up a ton of work that you did to the blade. And vice versa. If you get your tang perfect and then you start forging in your bevels and it starts moving your spine in all kinds of different crazy directions, you're going to have to fix that later. So do a certain amount of work on the blade, certain amount of work on the tang, certain amount of work on the blade, certain amount of work on the tang, so that in the end you can get them to work in together. When you're moving a lot of material, you end up screwing up a bunch of stuff in the process. Just gradually start working that down. This is the part where you want to keep everything square. So we do a little bit of forging on the height, a little bit of planishing, a little bit of forging on the height, a little bit of planishing. Because if you don't do that, you'll start getting a weird twist in your tang, and you'll start doing weird stuff whenever you're forging. So we want to do a little bit of smashing, a little bit of flattening, a little bit of smashing, a little bit of flattening. It's going to make it a lot easier whenever you actually get to that nice thin tail. You won't have to do as much work then. Use your hammer on every build. It's absolutely just the best hammers. So when ordering bar stock from a vendor, like New Jersey Steel Bearing, what size stock do you recommend? I recommend 1/4 inch stock pretty much for whatever you do, because you can always make the material thinner. So you can always forge the 1/4 inch stock down to a thinner material. And of course you can forge material to make it thicker if you wanted to do that as well. Again, just keep working it down, keeping it roughly square. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and pinch this down just a little bit more, and then we're going to go ahead and start working on that blade, because I'll be able to finish working on the tang after that. But we want to still have enough material to be able to hold it whenever we're actually forging on the blade. So, like I was saying, whenever you're doing something like this and you're moving a bunch of material, especially if we're doing like an integral bolster knife or something like that, and we've got to move just an absolute ton of material, it really works or helps to work in phases. Certain amount on the blade, certain amount on the tang, certain amount on the blade, certain amount on the tang, so that you can actually get the end profile to be where it needs to be. What ends up happening is whenever we're forging, let's grab something like this. Whenever we're forging a blade and we start forging this section, what's going to happen is when we're pinching this material right here, this material, if this was a rectangle originally, this material that's in this has to go somewhere. So what it's most likely going to do is this material is going to go this way and that way. So when you're forging in this area, what it's going to do is it's going to push the material out and banana this thing, put a curve in it like this. So you're going to have to correct that. So you have to forge this material and move it to different directions. As you pinch this, it's going to keep moving this area down. And what's going to happen is this blade section is going to get all gnarly. If you were to finish this blade and do the bevels and get the edge thin and all that stuff, when you go to try and correct that, you end up screwing up a bunch of stuff. So you want to get this area roughly profiled, get this area roughly profiled, and then fine tune it from there. If you try and do too much to one section and too much to the other, it's going to end up screwing you up. Now, of course, that's just my thought process on it. I was not taught by any particular bladesmith or blacksmith how to do this. Self-taught on everything that I do. I go with what makes sense in my head. And that is just fine. What we need for the tang for right now. We're going to end up making that a lot thinner. It's going to go and shrink down almost 2/3 smaller than that, or to 1/3 of the size that it is right now. What we're going to do, we're going to flip it, grab it from the other side, and start working on our blade profile. Which you can see, we already technically have a heel started. We got a tip, we got a spine. We should make all that pretty. We got to forge in bevels, we got to finish the profile, clean that up. And let's see, I think for this step, I'm going to go ahead and switch tongs. And I'm going to try out these little Vevor tongs right here. If y'all didn't know, Vevor actually makes tongs. And I'm going to try them out. They've got a little square on there. I think that's going to work pretty decent for holding that tang for right now. 10-minute presentation on why it's great. What steel? Yeah, it's 15 and 20. Nothing to write home about. Well, now that you said it's nothing to write home about, I'm going to go ahead and write home about it like Duck said. So when it comes to 15 and 20, a lot of people think that that's just the steel that you use in Damascus. Patterned welded steel. They just think that it's just steel that you use to get the high contrast in patterned welded steel. But when it boils down to it, if you wanted to make a good high quality, high carbon knife, like for a chef's knife, use 15 and 20. It can get really, really, really hard. It has an amazing corrosion resistance, because if you didn't know this, whenever you put your knife, pattern welded steel or Damascus knife in acid, in actual acid, it eats the 1080 or 10 series steel, but it does not eat away the 15 and 20. So, it's, I don't use a ton of 1080, 1095, I use a ton of 1084, little wife of mine. So when it comes down to it, Discord, no, what's up, how you doing? So when it comes down to it, 15 and 20, it's gonna have a high corrosion resistance for making chef's knives and things like that, versus your normal steels. But a lot of people, like whenever they say it's inferior steel, it's absolutely not. You can do a lot of stuff with it. You can do chef's knives, you can do awesome choppers, you can do pretty much anything with it. And it's not the steels that are inferior, it's the heat treats that people do that are inferior. Is it a Magna cut? No, it's not. It is by far, it's not an inferior steel. Let's say you wanted a 65 HRC chef's knife. You could easily get that with 15 and 20. It has an easy heat treat process, high corrosion resistance. It holds an edge better than most steels, and has a beautiful finish whenever you want to do a high polish. Looks absolutely beautiful. Uh, 15 and 20 is more corrosion resistance than 8670, by far. $10.95, I hate $10.95. 80 CRB2, I like a lot. But see, here's the deal. 15 and 20 is just as tough as $10.95. got to think about that. A lot of the Damascus or pattern welded chef's knives are 15 and 20 and 1095. But you can get an insane HRC or insane hardness out of 1095 or 15 and 20. It's absolutely awesome. The edge retention on 15 and 20 is amazing. Have I tried the bolt chop? I don't do tests that don't make sense with knives, but I've cut nails, I've shaved anvils, I've shaved my vices, stuff like that with the knives. Yeah, I've done a lot of crazy testing with 15 and 20 and 1080 and 5160 and all the other steels. I do ridiculous tests with a lot of my stuff, but I will not take a chef's knife and do a bolt chop because that makes no sense. You're never going to cut through a bolt with a knife. I don't do forged and fire type testing on anything that I make. My shop is not a forged and fire shop, so I'm not going to be doing any of that stuff with it. Okay, I'm pretty confident with that. What I need to do now, before I start drawing out the heel, is this section right here. You see how it's kind of uneven? I need to round that so that whenever I do forge the tang in, forge the rat tail back in on itself, it actually tucks up into a nice little notch right there. So I'm going to do that before I draw down the bevels and draw that heel down. Basically, what we're trying to create is this little profile right here, so that whenever you forge in the tang or the till back in on itself, it has a nice little area to suck into on there. So that's what we're going to do right now. We're going to clean that up, and then we'll start pulling down the heel, drawing or forging out the bevels, doing all that. Man, it's already hot in here. That's the reason why I'm wearing my protective gear. I'm wearing some nice above the knee shorts, a tank top, super protective. Don't want to get sparks on you. I don't suggest forging like this, but man, I live in Texas and it's hot. But not a customer knife. Yeah, very true. Okay, so I don't like 1095. I don't like, it's not that I don't like making knives with it. I don't like the thought process that a lot of people have that that's beginner knife making steel, or that a lot of people, whenever they make 1095 knives, they put it in their forge, they get it at the tip, and then they quench it in like a motor oil or something like that. 1095, if you have Parks 50, use Parks 50. I would suggest that. And then you want to use either a forge that has a thermocouple or something like that, where you can actually gauge the temperature real well, or you want to use an oven, because 1095 needs a soak time of about 5 minutes at the actual temperature. But a lot of people just take it, bring it up to temp, test it with the magnet. Oh, it's non-magnetic. Quench it, motor oil. Yay, it skates a file. But it's basically case hardened. The inside of it is a horrible grain structure. It's not good. It's no bueno. But a lot of people want to use them, and I wish people would stop. Okay, go off the horn here. now we have a nice little curve right there. As we start drawing out this heel, we're going to get even more of that, but this will end up looking real good whenever we get finished forging out this blade. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and forge a slight distal into the tip before we start forging in the bevels, and that'll give us just a nice thinner tip as we start forging in the bevels. So a slight distal, and then when we forge in the bevels, it'll finish out the distal taper. What I like having is whenever I forge these, I like having a slight little distal to the tip as we go. Of course, this one has a swedge on it and everything, but I like forging that distal in a little bit, and then when you're forging the bevels, you get a nice thin tip. Nonsense, motor oil is goated. So the heat treat matters more with 1095. Yes. What do you think of each company? So a lot of them, they use heat treating ovens to do a lot of their stuff because they can do it in mass, they can do bulk. So a lot of those are going to be fine. A lot of those companies that use that steel, you're going to be perfectly fine with it. Me personally, if I'm getting a knife from a company, I really like MagnaCut. I'm a big fan of MagnaCut. So if I'm going with like what I would call a superior steel, it would be something that's going to have MagnaCut. Me personally, I really like 15 and 20 for a lot of knives, but I'll use 80 CRV2 for some of them, but I also use a lot of 5160. If you've watched my channel at all, you know I love 5160. So we're going to do a slight distal on the tip. A lot of people wonder why I choke up on the hammer. If I'm really forging, I'm holding it back here. If I'm just fine tuning, I hold up on it closer to the head. So now we have a slight distal going in through the tip. We don't have to worry about making it look super pretty right now, but we have that slight distal. So the tip, of course, is thinner than the heel. And as we forge in those bevels, it will work its way into a nice thin tip. And by doing that, we just gave ourselves about another 1/4 to 1/2 inch of length on the blade just by forging in that distal. We were able to get about a 1/2 inch in length. Leaf springs are tough, man. I've annealed twice, it's still hard. Yep. Leaf springs will air harden. So why are you using the dog head other than it's cool? So the reason why I like the dog head, I'm going to show you something real quick. Now, of course, Frank does make these, Two Bastards, Texas Smithian Supply, the channel sponsor. He does make these. He doesn't make them very often. They are a little bit more expensive than your standard hammer. But let's take one of my hammers that is a big chunky boy right here. You know, this is a big chunky boy too. But if you look at how close this is to the face, whenever you are hammering with this type of hammer, if you hammer on top of the anvil, your knuckles are touching the face of the anvil because it's so close. With a dog head, your hand is raised up. So whenever you're hammering, you can come in and hammer wherever you want, and you're not going to touch your knuckles to the anvil. Plus, you can kind of fine tune it a little bit more. All the weight is towards the side that you're hammering on. Nothing back here because you're not hammering with this side of it. So it naturally wants to fall with this side down, as opposed to having the hammer split, so where there's weight on the back side because you need to be able to focus on this, it naturally wants to fall straight down on that face. You can come in, forge easily with it. It's easily one of my favorite hammers now. Just gotta clean up the profile just a hair. Okay, now that our profile is clean, we can go ahead, start pulling down these bevels. And by default, what that's going to do is it's going to shift this tip up to center. And because of the way we forged the spine right here, it's going to give us kind of like a clip point profile. But what we're going to do at this point, we're going to switch hammers. We're going to go ahead and grab the collab hammer with two bastards and Mark Ling. So you got two bastards there, Mark Ling on the other side. We're going to grab that, and we're going to use the round side of the hammer to forge in the bevels. And what that's going to do, we're going to come in on the bevels, and we're going to forge just on this bottom section right here. And what that's going to do is that's going to move everything in all the different directions. We're just going to pinch it down, and then we're going to come in and we're going to flatten it out. But what we're trying to do is just move that material super fast. What's up, Gail? Making a black, yep. So let's see here. With my luck, the first time whether scrapyard get leaf springs or something like that, other than 5160, yeah. And everyone thinks that leaf springs, all leaf springs are 5160, but they are not. All right, let's start forging in these bevels. Like I said, we're going to use the rounding side of the hammer. Both sides. You can see here, we only forged on this bottom section here. Okay, only forged on that. We were able to thin out our edge. I'm not trying to make it perfect right now. We're just trying to get the material moved into the right direction. I'm going to go ahead and do one more round of that, and then we're going to go ahead and I'm going to draw this heel out just a little bit more. I'll show you how we do that. And then we're going to clean the bevels up. And then we're going to come in here and we're going to forge this tang down some more into our rat tail. But as you can see, we already have a knife profile right there with bevels forged in. It's just not cleaned up yet. But what I like to do whenever I'm forging in those bevels is I use the rounding hammer and I use just this section here or just this section here. I'm not really hammering on the face here. I'm really using this exaggerated curve right here and right here. A lot of people think that when you're using a rounding hammer, you're just smashing it with the round side and it's going to do its whole job. I'll do the same thing with the flat side. I'll use these corners. Maximize your tools and use all the different edges. Now I wouldn't hammer this way. That's not really going to do much for you. But being able to hammer, utilizing all the different sections. What's up, Jason? What's up, Matt? But using the different sections of your hammer, it's just like using the different sections of your anvil. Using your horn when it's necessary. Using your step down when it's necessary. Using your shoulders when it's necessary. Using a hardy tool when it's necessary. Using the pritcher hole to be able to hold things down. All of these separate things have different uses. It's the same thing with your hammer. Whenever you're using the anvil in conjunction with one part of your hammer, you're going to get a different effect out of it every single time you use it. So you're going to get a lot of hammers in one hammer as long as you're utilizing all the faces and facets and things like that. It's not one of those things where it's just a one-purpose tool. You can do a lot with it. We just jumped up to 131 people watching. I don't know what happened, but hello, we're making a knife today. We're forging the bevels right now. I'm making a blacksmith knife. We're going to continue to forge the bevels in. You can see how thin we can get our edge right there doing this. We got a nice thin edge. Be able to forge it down. The more you do in forging phases, the less you have to do whenever you're grinding. So we've got that. What I want to go ahead and do now is I just want to pull the heel down just a little bit, so I'm going to isolate that with our straight peen cross peen. You're going to also do this with, let's say, if you have a ball peen hammer. One of the things that I did to my ball peen hammer here is I slightly rounded the face, and I can do this step with it as well. And then I changed the profile of this. But yeah, this ball peen's older than me. It's probably older than some of the people, a lot of the people in the actual helmet section. But yeah, I'll use that sometimes to isolate that heel and pull it down. I got my first anvil today. Great grandfather's Peter Wright 96 pounder. Man, that's perfect for bladesmithing. You don't need a super heavy anvil for bladesmithing. It's like, if you look at the little knife maker anvil, that thing is tiny. But it puts the mass where the mass is needed. So I'm going to come in with my fat straight peen cross peen, and I'm just going to isolate this heel a little bit. Now, you can see how much I moved the heel down to where it's even a slight bump here past. All I did, you can see the hammer blows. They're in this area right here. What's going to happen is whenever I flatten this or planish this, it's going to pull that heel down even a little bit more. The benefit to having one of the fatter cross peen straight peens is you're not putting in super sharp dents in here. If you use one that has a really narrow taper, like a Harbor Freight cross peen, it'll put really sharp dents in there, and it's hard to forge them out. With this, we were able to pull that out, and whenever I planish and forge in kind of what's going to be our plunge lines, it's going to be super clean, and we'll have a ton of heel. You can see we've got plenty of height here now. nice blade profile. All we got to do now is, if you can see where we forged the bevels about halfway, we need to go ahead and forge from the spine all the way down and clean up that line there so we have nice even bevels. We are making a blacksmith knife. And for people who are wondering what the heck a blacksmith knife is, it's something kind of like this right here. It's not the same profile, but it's like this, where the handle is all forged into it. Instead of having handle scales and all of that, we actually forge the whole entire thing out of one piece. We got to do a lot of blacksmithing techniques to keep everything even and straight as you go. We are going to be doing a twist like this, but we're going to be doing a lot of it all the way down. I knew that too. Some more fun material removal. CPM stills. Yeah, CPM's awesome still. We'll let it go in there for a little bit longer. I don't need a ton of heat in the steel for what I'm about to do to it. And all we're going to be doing is coming in and flattening out the bevels and making it to where our transition from our flats into our bevels isn't like in the middle of the blade. We want to bring that up a little bit. How long have we been at it? We've been filming this for about 50 minutes and just having fun. Most of my live streams last about 2 hours, and I like to go ahead and just do this pretty simple and slow. You know, we could always, if I wanted to just get after it and forge the heck out of it, for one, I could use the power hammer. This guy right here. If I use that, we'd be done. Well, I don't know. On some of these NAS projects like this, I can actually forge as fast as that. Now, if I'm making a sword, it takes a little bit longer. If I'm forging a huge piece of stock, that's a lot easier on my elbow. But for knives like this, I can forge just as fast as that thing does. Okay, we don't need a ton of heat in this for this step. You see here, started forging up higher on the blade. We don't have that transition line anymore. And that's really just to go ahead and forge in our bevels the rest of the way. We haven't even plenished that yet. That's how straight the blade is right now, and we haven't even plenished it. Look at how straight that is already. With that music playing. See, the nice thing is, my anvil's not super loud. And my music that I play with my earbuds in is louder than this anvil ring. Like, that's not loud at all. If you're using an angle grinder, that kills your ears. You need to wear ear protection if you're cutting steel with an angle grinder. That's ridiculous. How did I make my forge? So I actually have videos on the forge here. I've got videos on several forges that I've made in the past. Everything from an ammo can forge with a blowtorch, all the way up to this 2-burner 18-inch chamber forge. It's 18 inches by 5 inches tall by 4 inches wide, big chamber. I've actually got it blocked off halfway, so I'm only using 9-inch deep of the chamber. I've got a block off brick in there. It's the same size as the actual opening, and that way I only have to use 1 burner, and makes our propane last a lot longer. I don't need 2 burners going if I'm making something like a an EDC or something like that. That's too much propane being wasted. And if I'm not using 2 burners, my propane lasts twice as long. Like, I haven't changed out this bottle for the last 4 knives. So the last 4 knives, we're still using the same bottle. And I'll probably get 3 more knives out of it. Okay, so now we have a blade profile that I'm pretty okay with. We got a nice thin edge that I'm pretty okay with. We don't want to get it all super planished or anything like that. We want to go ahead and switch to the tang and start forging that out. So now we need to turn this section into a long rack tail. I want to get it to about, I don't need a full 9.5 inches like what I did on the last one, but right now we're at about 4 inches. Let's see here. We're at 4.5 inches, and I need it to be about 8 inches long. So we need to at least double the length on that tang, which we should be able to do. And you're going to see what I'm going to do here. I'm not going to, so the way that I do a lot of these, there are 2 steps. There's a step down that's going to be this section right here, where this piece curves up into, and there's going to be another step down which creates this gap right here. I don't like to take this all the way up into this section here. I like to have this gap because it makes it to where you have a more comfortable grip, pinch grip right here. So there's a step down and another step down. That's what we're going to do right now. We're going to do that second step down or step up, and then we're going to forge out that tail. I'm going to go ahead and take these tongs and narrow them out a little bit. Don't be afraid to modify your tongs if it's necessary. What I needed to do was I needed to make it to where it was a tighter pinch because the blade is pretty thin. If you don't have tongs like these, you need to get these to be a knife maker. I always suggest box jaw tongs. It keeps the steel from flying up and smacking you in the face. That'll only take a couple more seconds. Go ahead and switch back to the old dog head. What we're going to do is we're going to hang this off the side of the anvil. So what's going to happen is we already have one step right here. We're going to come slightly behind that and hang it off the anvil, and we're going to forge here. Like half on, half off, and we're going to pinch this section down to like that, to where it does a little step. The unknown editor. Hi, how you doing? What's up, Maxilla? And the Knives Templar. Is it efficient to turn off the forge while you're hitting it? No. You want to keep the forge going, The reason behind that is if you turn the forge off, the internal chamber cools down. You want the internal chamber to be nice and hot so that when you put your still in it, it's already ready to go. It'll get your still hotter faster. You don't want your chamber to cool down. So hang it off just a little bit. So now we got a secondary step down. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put it in the vise over here, and I'm just going to clean that up a little bit. Is this a necessary step? Nope, it's not. But it is a personal preference, because once I forge this the rest of the way, you're not going to be able to clean up that area. So I'm just going to take a big round file, and I'm going to file inside this little area right here and just clean it up a little bit. Don't you just love that noise? Okay, I'm going to show you exactly what that looks like now. Grab these tongs. Okay, we're not trying to go super crazy with the file. We just wanted to clean it up just a little bit. We don't go nuts with that. That way we just have those 2 step downs. And now I'm just going to take the file, make sure we take any burrs off. What'll happen is whenever I go over this with the wire wheel on the angle grinder, it's going to finish a lot of these edges just by default. So you don't got to get too crazy with this. We're not trying to make it look like a super crazy finish knife, but we want those 2 step downs like that. Now we're going to go ahead and forge out this tang the rest of the way. If you watched Lynn Ray make his X-ray knife or different knives that he makes with the blacksmith knives, you'll see him use files a lot of the time whenever he's making a little piece that goes through. Because what he does is he makes a little bump out right here, and he hot punches a hole in this tail right here, and then it sits on top of that little knob that comes off here, and then he forges that down into place, and it creates a mechanical bond with a little pin that he files out of a little tab that comes off. What about forged in fire? Gonna get you one? Heck yeah. Forging a Minecraft sharpness 5 sword. Mozart jaw tongs. That's funny. Naked and afraid. I have thought about doing Forged in Fire. I've submitted my stuff to be on it, but I was not picked to be on it. I didn't realize how much you needed to sell yourself to get on that show. I didn't realize that I needed to create like a whole story about me. Some people that I know got asked to be on it. Some people that I know had to really sell themselves to be on it. Whew. Make sure you stay hydrated if you're going to be in your forge during summer. It's too hot. Keep forging that down until we have a 3/16 by 3/16 square. So we're going to get as much length as we can out of it in the process of forging that down. I'm not really worried about the profile of the knife right now. What I'm trying to do is just get that rat tail forged out. I'll be able to adjust the spine before we actually get into wrapping it around and creating the handle. So I'm not really worried about a, perfectly looking blade in the process of forging everything. Yeah, stay hydrated regardless, yeah. I'm looking to make 2 knives for a couple of buddies this summer. Nice. Yeah, I love having everything in here. This shop is primarily the shop that I do a lot of the stuff in. Got the 2x72 here. Got of course, my drill press. My porter bandsaw is right behind it. I got my Fordham, which is basically just a fancy word for fancy Dremel tool. I use this 1x30 back here that's horizontal with these belts right here to do some sharpening. Plus I have the 2x42 set up. And this right here is on a table that has wheels. So I can take it and roll it outside the shop, which is this side. I've got a full concrete pad out here that I can pull that table out on and grind out here. So it's not just the inside of the shop that you see. I've got the full outside as well. And then of course I have all the tools. A bunch of my templates from my beginning knives that I first started making. So all the knives that are out of these templates right here, all the ones that are on the wall, those are the first knives I ever made. So every single one that's up there is a knife that I made, and those are like the very first builds that I made back when this shop was a small 11x11, and I worked out of the 12x12 that is actually, this is the wall for the 12x12, but y'all don't really get to see much anymore because soon y'all will see that. It'll be my grinding room and clean room. Half of it's a grinding room, half of it's a clean room. So yeah. He says fully dark there. Yeah, sun's still out here. Why don't I use a coal forge? Because I really like using a propane forge. And I made my forge. I like my forge. Do I think it's bad to use a coal forge? No. I respect people that use coal forges. Coal forges are finicky, and they're a beast to use. Easily screw stuff up if you don't do it right. Starting to get there. Need to go quite a bit more than that. You didn't miss a ton. You still get to see the cool part. All we did was we forged down the initial tang. Before we started forging the rat tail, it was forged out the initial tang, and then we forged the blade. But we still have work that we need to do to have both of those. Right now, what we're trying to do is just draw that tang out. Some people might be wondering why at this point I'm not using the horn to help draw out the length, or why I'm not using the straight peen or cross peen to draw it out. The downside to using those tools in this particular phase is if I hammer too far in one particular spot, it's going to be hard to get that big dent out. So I'm using the flat top, flat face hammer, and we're just going to keep forging it down until we get the square that we want without risking screwing something up. See, that tail really starts to grow as we do this. We just get more and more and more out of it. Remember, before I started forging the rat tail out after the second step, we were right at about 4 inches long. We're probably at about 6 right now. I use coal as well. You definitely have to pay attention, maintain the fire. Not just maintaining the fire too. You got to pay attention or you will absolutely melt off the thing that you have in the fire. What's up, Emmett? How you doing? Yeah, coal forge, you can easily just absolutely melt the steel. Melt it. Yeah, it definitely gets off. That it does. What is your stand made out of? So this stand for the anvil or the stand for the forge? The stand for the anvil is a whole bunch of 2x12s. They are offset. So I have 2-inch overhang here so that I can do things like take my hammers and put them there. I have a piece of banding going across the face of it, so you can put your hammers in here. You can put your tongs on there. It's a nice little multi-purpose piece, and it adds a lot of weight. Not an insane amount, because you know how heavy a 2x12 is, but that thing right there, they're just offset, and I use screws and glue to put them all together. You'll see me do a lot of the same thing where I'm hammering, just like a power hammer would be. I'm hammering in the same spot, and I'm just moving the steel to the spots that I need it to be. But you get nice, even, consistent blows because you're hammering in the same exact spot as you're doing it. Let's see, I'm interested to see how long we are here. 6 1/4 inches. And that's 6 1/4 inches from the second notch. We were 4 inches from the initial notch. So we've gained about 6 3/4 of an inch. Not 6 3/4, but 2 3/4 of an inch. Already. All we needed was 8 inches, roughly, to be able to do this. So I think we're going to be fine once I get done with it. I can forge faster than the power hammer. The power hammer just saves me time. It makes making Damascus a lot easier because forging Damascus by hand is a pain in the elbow. But yeah, I hammer just as fast as my power hammer does. And that's got a 30-pound head on it. So 30-pound head, but I still beast mode it faster than that thing does. That's my power hammer. And these aren't really moving steel hammer blows. If you see me doing that, you'll see me coming up and actually drop them on my whole body, doing things like that. Bring it down just a little bit thinner. What we're going to be doing is I'm going to be taking and twisting it. What I might try and do to where I can actually show it to y'all. Might do this a little bit different. Just going to put the guillotine tool over there. And I'm going to see if I can twist it horizontally. So I'm going to put it in the vise that I use to do all kinds of stuff. And we'll try and twist it that way. We'll see what happens when we get to that phase. See how long we are now? So we were at 6 1/4 on that last one. Now we're at about 7 1/4. And we just need to get to 8. So we grew an inch just off that last little bit of forging. Which is crazy because I know you look at it and you go, Eric, it was already about that thin. But just by moving these increments of steel around the whole entire thing, we get that much more length. An inch. And it doesn't really look like we're doing anything crazy. All we're doing is just forging on the face of this, and we just got an inch of length. Could still be closer. I do does how I do. So it looks like it's further away than it is. I take small steps, but if I just went from here, 1, 2, I'm in, 1, 2, I'm at the anvil. I keep it far enough away from me because I have to have this door back here shut that lets a lot of the nice breeze in. I'll probably go ahead and open it now. So I'll move y'all just a hair. But there we go. So the sun here, there's a door right behind y'all. The sun sets right there. So what happens is, whenever I start this stream at about 6:30, the sun is pointing straight at the anvil, and the anvil is shining. It's super bright, and it blows out the camera. One managed to fix it to change something. Yeah, that's true. It's okay. I'm so happy you're here. Your English might not be too good, but it's cool. I love having people here from different parts of the world. Learning how to do some cool stuff. We are at 8 inches, so now all I need to do is go ahead and just square everything. So we're good. How often do I refill propane? So with me blocking off half the forge, I can do probably 7, 8 knives on one tank. And that's like close to forge to finish. It's not just forging a rough profile, going to the next knife, forging a rough profile, going to the next knife. I get about 8, like, close to forge to finish knives. Handle always a pain to start. This is true. It is. Once you get used to it, it's not too crazy. But we're going to go ahead and switch for the first time to a non-two bastards hammer. So if y'all didn't know that, Two Bastards, Texas Smithy and Supply, the old hammer sponsor. We're going to go ahead and switch to my little auto body hammer that I've had since for like 26 years. All we're trying to do now is just square it up. You want to square it up now before you do the twist, because that makes the twist look really cool and clean. think of this hammer as a little flatter, or a flattener, or whatever you want to call it. It's basically a really light, small version of this beast. It gets everything nice and flat. So right now, if you look at it, we have a nice, even thickness on our tail. I'm not worried about this last section here because that gets flattened into this little guard that we make right there, that we flare out. It gets flattened into that. So the last about 3/4 of an inch will turn into about 1.5 inches once I flatten it. And that gets tucked into this little notch right here. What we want to do now is we want to take this bump out of the blade. We don't want that bump there. So what we're going to go ahead and do is forge that out. So I'm going to take it and grab it from the tail side. And we're going to get that bump forged out. And what that'll do in that process is that will actually bring the heel back a little bit. So it brings this heel and kicks it back a little bit when we take this section and we forge it down. But this is what we want. We want a nice even flow from this section right here. So whenever I made this knife, that is the original forged profile. All I did was cleaned it up with the wire wheel. So everything that you see from here back is all hammer and anvil. Bulwark against the dark side. Blacksmiths instead of school and learn my trade. Nice. About forge welding. I've done plenty of forge welding. Man, I got my tattoo so long ago, like, it is ridiculous. That and then all the rest of them, I got them a long time ago. I am going to be doing, so my son is, he's on the autism spectrum, my oldest boy. He does all these cool drawings. He's super artistic. He does 3D stuff, like creates mods for video games and stuff like that, and actually puts them into video games, but he creates all these cool little sketches, and I'm actually going to get a tattoo that goes from here all the way up to here, all the way around, that has these creations, these animals and monsters that he created in a cityscape, all from here up, and I'm really excited about that. I've wanted his artwork tattooed on me for a long time. Alright, so now we're just going to take this, lay it on the anvil. Bring it down a little bit like that right there. Put it back in the forge, and then we're going to shift it down again. Only difference is on this next one, I'm actually going to switch it and grab it from the other side. On this next one, we'll actually get into the notch here, that notch, and use the anvil for that. The tang's so long now. The tang's so long that me having it blocked off with that only using 9 inches of the forge, we have a just over 8-inch tail. So I'm having to block it off a little bit. A rusty nail. Damn. It's a fire poker. Absolutely love it. Heck yeah. Did you do Damascus and Alive? So what I could do is I can, if y'all are cool with me using the power hammer, yeah, I could do Damascus live. But the issue is doing Damascus, basically what I'd be doing is making a billet. It's hard to forge a Damascus billet and then forge it into a blade. There we go. In a Shop Talk Tuesday video. So the hard part about getting on Forged in Fire is they're not filming in America right now. So I would love to get on it, but they're not filming in America. And they're talking about bringing it back to America, but it's going to be this big thing where supposedly it's going to be like you're on a team and you make like a trebuchet or something like that. It's not going to be the Forged in Fire that you remember. Okay. This side. Make sure we don't get a cold shut in there. That's what happens whenever you forge it over. You forge it thin enough like that. There we go. We are good. But you can see we did get this section brought down. Now, of course, the tang. Put it back in the forge for a second. Right now, it's just a spring. But we did get that section pulled down. So it is a blacksmith knife, and you'll see basically what we're working on is making this section right here that folds over onto itself. So we're making the handle part. Out of a piece of metal. Yep. I agree. That's one of the reasons why I love forging so much. Might give me 1 second. I was talking about not needing to swap out the propane for a while, but we're starting to get a little low on PSI, so I'm going to shut this off. One of the things that I do to keep myself from having the bottle freeze is I have this water container right here, and it keeps the bottom of the propane bottle from freezing. But always have a nice spare tank. And voila! Now we're good. Yeah, I miss Alex Still's old school videos. A 26-part series. He definitely had some of that going on. Okay. On episode 246 of Making the Baskets 9. And now, put it on my skin there so you can actually see it better. Now we have a profile that we want. So now what we need to do is heat up this section and do our twist. What I'm going to do is I'm going to heat it up. Let me just kind of straighten it just a little bit. Good there. So I'm going to heat it up, and I'm going to put the blade in the vise. So let's move the anvil real quick. Always have my anvil on wheels for things like this. Get it out of the way. Bring this over. So what I'm going to do, move y'all down a little bit. So we're going to put the blade in here, put the blade in like this, and we're going to twist the handle. Good. Now I actually can see what I need to do with the camera. So we're going to put the blade in, and we're going to twist the tang as we do it. Typically we'd put the blade in the vise like this, which might actually work, but you would hold it in the vise. So if I needed to do the twist here, we would hold here and do the twist. Because I want to do the twist from here all the way around to here, I need to have the blade in here and I need to do the twist. But because I'm going to do something different with the twist, I need to work from the end in. If that makes sense. If it doesn't, it will in a couple of seconds. We're going to use our handy dandy Harbor Freight crescent wrench or shifting spanners if you're from Australia. Okay, got that hot enough. Put it in about there. Okay, got that twist. So we got one twist in there. There's going to be a few more. It's not just going to be that one. The people want Damascus. They want it now. torches, pitchforks. So, like I said, when it comes to Damascus on a live stream, I would, if we do that, what I can do is I can do a live stream forging the Damascus, and then do a live stream taking that piece of Damascus and forging it into a knife, and then do a, like I could figure out something with that. The OG Frenchie, what's up, man? And then what is that? Waccamaw Outdoor Adventures, what's up? So I could probably do something like that. So take one live stream and forge the Damascus billet, and then in the next live stream forge that billet into a knife. Y'all want me to do that? Y'all want me to try that out for a live stream? Now I'm going to put the end of this in the vise. Go the other direction. Me over here acting like I was holding it with a ply or with a tongue and not a wrench. Okay. So on this next go, we're going to put it in the vise. We're going to do a little more twist in one area, and then we're going to twist it another way in the other area. My goal is for the twist that goes the reverse direction to have that on here, have this twist go one direction, this twist go another direction, and then this twist go another direction. Okay, so we have one twist, another twist, and then we're going to do another twist in this section. And we're going to see how this goes. Heck yeah. Mule, do you know? Apparently a popular name in Canada. A multi-part live series sounds awesome. I do have a, no, I don't have an oxyacetylene torch, but I do plan on getting one. That would make this real easy. So would an induction forge. I want an induction forge. That would be cool. Seeing Dennis Tyrell use his induction forge, it's like cheating. I waited too long for this. Now we're good. So the important thing is to, of course, make sure that whenever we twist this, that we get this part in the right orientation. I think that's going to be pretty cool. We're going to find out. Okay. So before I do the last little part, I'm going to go ahead and planish the blade. At this point, we don't need to do anything crazy with the blade, no crazy profiling or anything like that. All we got to do is just planish it. We just want to make sure that whenever we're planishing it and we're holding the knife, that we're not holding it in an area that has the twist, or we'll end up screwing up the edges on the twist. So we want to hold it in front of that section. And because we're going to be planishing, we don't need a lot of heat in the blade in order to do this. So all we're going to do is just smooth it out, and then we're going to go ahead and we're going to bend the knife, or bend the tang. Already almost there. Temp-wise. Just some planishing hits. Okay, blade. The blade is nice and straight. There we go. Just like that. So our blade looks good. So now we can go ahead and form our handle. What we're going to do first, of course, before we do that, we need to take this little piece right here, and we need to flare that out. just going to use the round head of the rounding hammer, and we're going to get that nice and flared out. Split and slices, what's going on? Live in Siberia, that's awesome. The induction forge would absolutely be a game changer. What about stainless steel sand mine? You can pull off that. Man, I'll tell you right now, stainless steel sand mine, I've got so many friends that have been forging longer than me that still have issues with forging stainless steel sand mine blades. Like, stainless steel is the bane of their existence. If you get a chance, watch Green Beetle's series on him doing stainless. Yep. Stainless sand mines, horrible. In 2 months, we can try make a joint video. Definitely hit me up. Yeah, hit me up and we'll talk about a collaboration. By the way, this is the forging that flat, tapering it down, creating that little paddle, a nice clean one. That's going to fold into that little crease for us. This is where I wish I had scrolling tongs. Scrolling tongs makes this particular step a lot easier, and I really think that I need to get myself some, or make some. I probably got some tongs that I can modify and make into some scrolling tongs. I'm not going to do it right now, but I'll probably have them. So, creating our little bow, and then what we're going to end up doing is this piece right here is going to pull up, but we have our twist on the spine. The twist is going to be around the back section or the butt of it, and then it's going to come forward, and this is going to tuck up into here. Make it a little bit tighter so that it actually fits in the forge. Now, I've never done the thing that we've done in this video with the different twists on a tail like this, so a lot of it is me just thinking what makes sense and trying it out, and it tends to end up working out. Switch tongs. Little bevel tongs. Cross it over on itself like that right there. Straighten that spine just a little bit. As you can see right now, we have that paddle to where it starts right here. So on this next heat, we're going to bend this up into here and bend it around. Do you think that tab's crooked a little bit? Just a hair? You want me to leave it like that? It's only crooked if you look at it, okay? I'll tell you right now, if I had it in my tongs right here and I was looking this direction, it would be perfectly straight. It's only crooked if you look at it. Fix the tab is driving you crazy. It will be fixed. It goes in process. There's a step to it. So now we take our tab and we start bending it like that. Get it over in place, which is going to be right in front right there. See, it's off to the side, still crooked for duck right there. And then we're going to end up pushing it up into here. Oh, what do you mean fix it? I know what you're talking about, by the way. And don't worry, duck. Don't worry. You're worried right now. Don't worry. I go to knowledge source for most things. Head, brick wall. Oh, duck. What if I just left it crooked? Leave it crooked and send it to you, duck. So the little bitty scrolling tongs, get this area straight right there, and then I'll go ahead and tuck it up here and I'll pull the tab over now. But at least that area that's going to tuck up into the little notch here, that area is straight. Once we get it tucked up in there, we'll then go ahead and pull that tab over a little bit. You'll fix it if I don't. Grab these tongs. Up on the little notch for right now. Good night, Steve. Look at how crooked that tab is. Duck. Should I just leave it like that? I love it. Night, Steve. Night, Mr. Russian guy. I don't know how to say your name, so I'm going to go with Mr. Russian guy as well. Now, what I'm going to do, so once I get the tab kind of pulled over, I'm going to straighten the tang a little bit, and then I'm going to actually cant it down a little bit. Because right now, the tang kind of goes up this way. Kind of want to cant that down just for right now. And this tab is too long, so I'm going to end up cutting off some of it. But if you look right now, see how the handle's tilted to the side? So I can't really use the vise. If I do that, it will actually crimp down on the twist, and it will mar the twist on it. So it's a lot easier to do this with tongs. But yeah, if I was to put the, now what I could do, and you might have an idea, you might have the right idea for that, just put the blade in the vise and move around the tang. It's a good idea. I don't know if that's what you were talking about. I'm going to turn the fan away so the fan's not blowing on it. Put it in the forge one more time and do that again. That was a great idea. So now I'll show you where we're at on it. Now we're looking good on there, but I still need to pull this down a little bit and then work that tab and close that gap right there. And there's a good chance that whenever I take and I drop the tang down, or drop that handle down to create a little bit of this arch that it's going to fill in that area. Most definitely do not have OCD. Nobody like a marred up twist, that's for sure. Yep. Yeah, the vise was the vise worked out well. On April Fool's Day, you should change the channel name to OCD OCD Franchi. Cool thing is these box draw tongs just grip it just nice enough without hurting anything. Might have to put a little bit more heat into it again and go a little bit further, but that brought it back down a little bit, but I still want it to drop just a little bit more than that. I have one other thing that I might actually modify on it just a little bit. Break, grandson after that. Hey, it was awesome having you here as always, splitting slices. Yeah, having a bunch of tongs is nice. I think I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 13, got 14 sets of tongs, and it is awesome. It's still not enough. It's never enough. Ever, ever, never, never, ever enough. That, and then I want to take pinch here. Yeah. So we dropped the handle down a little bit. I went ahead and pinched it here a little bit just to give it a better profile. But our two little flat sections match up real well. Different little twists and whatnot. It's looking pretty good, if I do say so myself. Once I finalize the profile tomorrow, I can do a little bit of cleanup. I think it's going to look sick. Rebar does work good for general blacksmithing. It also makes really good throwing knives. So if you want to make throwing knives or spears or stuff like that, it's awesome. I literally sat here for a good 10 to 20 seconds trying to figure out why the channel name was the River 6 Experience. Yeah, I get that. You're not the only person. That's the reason why whenever I do my my website, I do capital T H E, capital R I V E R S, capital E X P. That way you actually see the Rivers Experience. Because if I don't, everybody just sees sex. That's all they see. Just sex. Doesn't matter what all the letters are before sex or after. To be fair, that's on y'all though. That ain't on me. That's y'all's minds. Finish straightening this tab a little bit more for Mr. Duck. Got too many tongs going on right now. So what I still need to do is just close this gap right here. We are definitely looking at a good little blacksmith knife. This little heat here, all I'm going to do is grab it, massage that little tab in there. We're going to look good. Front Kick Forge has great videos. I've got a few of his hammers too. Yeah, Knife Still Nerds for like heat treating and all that. Absolutely awesome website for all kinds of different things. I go to different websites and forums all the time. Let's see, I really don't know if I want to use a ball peen to get that in there or if I want to use tongs to get it. I don't think I want to mar up that little section. Better. The issue that I'm having is making sure that I can close up that gap. It's, of course, it's a lot better now. So you can see, but it's not exactly where I want it just yet. But I don't want to hammer right there because if I hammer right there, we're going to put a bunch of dents in it. But I think if I do what I just did there one more time, just pushing it down into it, with those other tongs, that's going to be the way to go with it. Instagram, yep. Free metallurgy primer for placements, yeah. Hey, it was awesome having you here, OG. We're almost done here. Almost. Dude, it's funny seeing all these bugs go kamikaze to the forge. Because I've got the lights on now. It's starting to get a little dark outside. So they're all coming to the light. And they're just getting blown up by the forge. That's one way to use the tongs. When in doubt, just whack the thing. Fine tune it. Line it up. That puppy right there. That is what we're going for. See that? Nice and tight. Tucked all the way up in there. No light shining through it. We got a nice looking handle profile. We got the twist on there, going different directions. Twist around the backside, the two flats on the even section here, twist going through there. We got our tab on there. It is nice and centered, so you can see our cutting edge is nice and centered inside of it. So, looking good there. Cutting edge is centered down it. We're nice and straight on there. Now what'll happen tomorrow is the guard will get shortened just a little bit, and of course we'll profile the blade a little bit, clean it up. But that right there is a forged, straight, distal to the tip. It has bevels forged in, a nice thin edge. Nice thin edge on it. That's a good looking little knife. And to show y'all what we started off with, I forgot that I even had this. Well, I have this case. I think I have another piece that's exactly like it. Anyways, I'll find it somewhere. Oh, right here. This is what we started off with. This exact size piece right here, we forged that into this. And I'm touching it so you can see I'm not like moving it and making it look bigger than it is, like this or like this. So we were able to forge a piece that is basically as big as the blade into this with a full tail and everything. So There's no way that you can stock removal this piece into this size knife. You just can't do it. But you can definitely forge a whole entire knife out of a piece of steel that big. And just in case you think I'm kidding, this was the drawing we did right off the bat. That was the piece of steel that we started with. This is the knife we got out of it. So pretty cool. It's amazing what you can do with just taking the time to forge something. Now we're going to go ahead and toss it in the forge and let it anneal. Just like I've said in a lot of other live streams, if you're going to anneal your blade in the forge, so you're going to bring it up to 1600 degrees, let it cool down inside the forge. If you're going to do that, what you want to do, you can tell I got dark outside because my face is dark here. What you want to do is you want to take it and, now I can actually pull y'all up here, I might make it a little bit brighter. Nope, not at all. So if you want to anneal the blade after you get done forging it, and I will tell you this right now, if you're going to forge a blade and then you're not going to mess with it until the next day, anneal it. If you're going to wait 5 hours, you're going to go take a break, whatever, go do something else, anneal the steel so that it's in a relaxed state before you start forging on it again or you start doing your next process. So if you forged the blade, you want to relax the steel because you just got done abusing the hell out of it. And what you don't think about is you're air cooling it every single time you take it out and you start hammering it. You're air cooling the blade. You're air hardening it because you're putting it on a colder anvil. You're forging it. It's getting cold pretty quick. You want to take it, put it in the forge, and anneal it. So bring it up to 1600 degrees. Let it cool slowly inside the forge or vermiculite. If you're going to let it cool inside your forge, what you need to do is get some heat into the steel and then turn the forge off. Don't bring the blade up to 1600 degrees and then turn your forge off because your forge might be running at 1800 or 1900 degrees, and what will happen is while your blade is in there, it's going to keep a residual heat of about 1800 degrees, and it's going to bring your blade from 1600 up to 1750 or 1800 while it's annealing. That's too hot. You don't want it to go up that hot. You want to get a little bit of heat into it and then shut it off, and it will come up to your forge temp. So we've got some heat in there. We're going to shut this off, and we're going to let that thing cool down inside the forge and call it good. But you don't want to get it up to the 1600 degree temp and then just shut off the forge and block off the forge, because it will keep raising in temperature while you're not realizing it. So something to think about there. You could easily just get it way too hot and then it'll screw stuff up. So we were able to forge out a blacksmith knife roughly like this right here. Instead of just doing this twist that you see right there, we did a twist around the back, and then we did a twist here, and we did a twist here. And the twist here and here are reverse of this twist. So if this one goes this way, the other ones go this way. So it's just reverse spiral. But basically, forging something like that, my goal was for it to fit a sheath like this, which is one of the ones I got from the Bavarian experience of a Frankenmuth, Michigan. It's cool. I don't know if they hydro dipped this or whatever they did to get that particular Kohler combo on there, but I liked it. I bought it, and I was like, I'm gonna make a knife that fits it. So the people who run the Bavarian experience, they're the ones who run the Dragon Forge experience, the thing that I'm going to be doing in the end of October through November and the beginning of December. Myself, a whole bunch of other people that are just awesome are going to be there. And the cool thing about the Dragon Forge experience is the forges, they're not like this. Those forges are the mouths of these huge dragon sculptures. So one of the dragon, you can actually move the head, and if you look it up, if you look up Josh Weston on Instagram, he's a Forge and Fire contestant. He's on 2 different episodes. He came up second place on his first episode, then won his second episode. But Josh Weston on Instagram, he's the one that actually designed the dragons and made them, and also the guy who runs the Dragon Forge experience and the Bavarian experience and all that. Let's see here. I got my forge 2 years ago, but I've been working metal for like 10 years. Been working metal for like 10 years, so whenever you were what, like 8? Exactly. It is over half your life. I've been working with metal for about 26, 27 years. So, of course, that was doing auto body back whenever you actually worked the steel. And then I did stone work, which you had to really learn how to do material removal and stuff like that. I did that for a few years. And it's made being able to do blacksmithing way easier. I did, woodworking, all kinds of different things for a long time. So it was really cool. But guys, it's been 2 hours and 33 minutes. I think it's time to call it here. I'm going to go inside and get some more water, get something to drink. I went to work this morning at 5 a.m. I worked 5 a.m. in the morning. So I got up at 4:30, went in, worked from 5 to about 2 p.m., 5 a.m. to 2 p.m., and then came home, ate, came out here, and forged this. So I'm tired. I'm going to go inside, get something to drink, snack on something, and go to sleep. So thank y'all for being here. Thank y'all for, of course, interacting in the comment section, hanging out, doing all this stuff. We'll be doing another one. Either next Saturdays will either be, well, no, because next Saturday I'll be a Blade show. So I'm going to try and live stream while I'm there. I'll be there Friday and Saturday, Blade Show Atlanta. And so I'm going down there. I'll be there Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and head back Sunday. But I will see y'all if y'all are there Friday, Saturday. Make sure you come, say hi, say what's up, hang out, and we'll go from there. And then the weekend after that, we'll be doing a live stream, forging something again. So there we go, guys. Thank y'all for being here. Thank y'all for coming by. Y'all have an amazing weekend, and I'll catch y'all next time.